Hey guys, Ben here from Strength Factory, and this is Factory Knowledge, and it's a Fort William World Cup special. So I'm here, I'm at the top of the gondola. It's been hammering with rain, and the pits and the woods are full of midges. But what I'm going to do is, whilst I'm working this weekend with my rider Morgan Tyrrell, who rides for Intense Racing UK, I'm also going to do a load of videos throughout the weekend about Morgan, about what I'm doing, and about whatever goes on here and what goes into making a fast run down Fort William, and World Cup speed, preparation, warm up and all things like that. So this video is a bit different to the normal ones. It's going to chop and change, but hopefully you'll find it really useful. As always, if you've got any questions, drop in the comments below, share widely and hit subscribe. Cheers. And it's a Saturday morning and qualifying day. So what the athletes have to do this morning is get a couple of practice runs in limited time, so anywhere between 1 and, if you're really quick, 4 runs, but for most people 2 or 3 runs. And I just wanted to talk to you about, practice. So if you guys are racing, how to go about approaching practice in your racing to get the most out of it. So it's really easy when you're practicing to just go through the motions. Oh, I'm doing another run, I'm doing another run, and just drop in, go again, drop in, go again. And yes, you've ridden the track more times, but what have you actually done to improve your race time, or to find the extra speed? And that's why when I work with my athletes at a race like the Mountain Bike World Cup, we always approach practice with a plan, okay? There's always a plan. So every run, the athlete goes to the top of the hill knowing, what do I need to achieve on this run, okay, to get that little bit closer, excuse me, to get that race speed that I need to qualify or then to race really well. And so we had the different runs this morning with different things to achieve on each run. So the first run is kind of your classic sighting, warm-up run, and maybe you're going to stop in a couple of key places to identify changes in the track that have happened due to the volume of riders and the weather, which is a big factor here this weekend. The second run was in this morning a full top to bottom run with a few areas of the track identified to really push at 100% and get as close to race pace as possible. Okay, not a full top to bottom run at race pace, but identifying those areas. And then actually after that second run, the rider was really happy with how they felt. They had good speed, good energy, felt really good on the bike. So we called the third run, and now it's time to get all the basics right. So it's hydration, it's hit a recovery shake, spin the legs out, warm dry clothing on, and then we start working on our timeline for building up to qualifying runs later on.
10 seconds. 5, 4, 30
So I'm at the bottom of the
seconds.
hill now, and qualifying is done for the male juniors, and I'm stoked. Yeah, my lad Morgan has qualified, put down a solid run, solid time, and so now it's all about race day tomorrow. So I think the takeaways when you're thinking about qualifying and racing are, it's just all about that preparation. It is another race run. You effectively race on the Saturday and then race on the Sunday. You're not quite as hard, not quite as intense. You don't take quite as many risks, because ultimately if you make a big mistake, you don't qualify for the main event on the Sunday. And there's not many riders out there who are that fast that they can just cruise qualifying and still make it, okay? So what we did there is, at the top of the hill, we did our full race warm-up. And that's a series of things. So we took a trail bike up there, and he did some riding to get his temperature and his pulse up and all that sort of thing, carved a few turns. We did some movement and some mobility. We did some sprints on the trail bike, and then we did some like race priming, as I call it, where we do some more aggressive, powerful movements that are as much mental as they are physical for getting the rider ready to drop in. And this is a really important point, thinking about that preparation to race and and things like that, is there's different characters. And so the way I prepare Morgan to drop in for his World Cup qualifying run is actually different to how I might prepare somebody else. Some riders with real chilled out demeanours they need a bit of a kick up the arse and a bit firing up, like, go on, you know, you're almost slapping them around the face, trying to get them pumped to ride. And then other riders, the kind of riders who are already a bit overstimulated, the ones who maybe are likely to blow out the first turn and do something completely wild, those guys maybe need a couple of chilled out deep breaths. Okay, so if you're listening to this as a coach, then you know it's something to think about when you're preparing your athletes for competition. And as an individual, going to races and trying to get the best possible results, you've got to think about how you prepare. Are you a highly strung, quite aggressive individual who quite often makes mistakes early on and tends to try too hard, pedal too much, blow out turns? Then instead of at the top, you know, getting all aggressive and fired up, that's going to make it worse. So you need to be bringing yourself down a bit. Similarly, if you're super chilled, pretty mellow guy, and maybe if you race enduro and your first stage of the day is always the worst, then you need to get a bit more pumped up to ride. So it's the morning of race day here at Fort William, and as you can see, it's absolutely lush. The morning practice is about to start, so morning training is about to start for the juniors, and yeah, my lad, you just see him up in the tent ready to drop in. So this morning is real tight timings, and so what we've had to do is put together our schedule, and this is one of the jobs that I'll do with the rider. So last night me and Morgan went through it, and the key thing is that you work back from the race time. Now, there's nothing complicated here. There's nothing out of the ordinary. It's a very simple process, and that's the thing to remember. It's a high performance, you know, getting the best out of this rider and everyone being in the right place at the right time is all about just dialing in the basics. It's about getting the basics right every time under pressure, and so that we can get Morgan here, the rider, to the start line on time with the right kit, feeling good. And so the message is that, yeah, high performance isn't any mad secrets. There's no crazy things. No matter whether you're like Trek Factory racing or whatever, whoever you are, this is what they're doing, getting the basics right every single time. So the excitement is over. I'm back home in Bristol after the World Cup, and what we're going through now is, you know, post-race you've got to go through a review of how it went. So after the race, Morgan came 18th, by the way, 18th junior, which is, you know, it's decent. He's qualified. He's 18th in the world, which is pretty good. It's not quite where we want to be, and there's still some work to be done. Okay, and so he's going straight to Leogang next week, and so we've got to do this quick review of the race weekend, what went well, what needed to be worked on, and anything that he's going to do differently next week, because in Leogang he doesn't have me there with him, or his old man actually. He's very much on his own, like with the rest of the small team that he's on. So there are things that went really well this weekend, there are things that we need to change, that we need to tweak a little bit, and it's just a process that you should always go through after any race or event, and that way, that's how you learn. If you just like go through the motions, race, you know, then come home, unpack your kit, repack your kit, go to another race, then what are you really like learning? How are you improving? Okay, so make sure you take the time to do a post-race review, and that you then actually apply the learnings and the findings that you've got. Okay, and it's a conversation between me, the rider, like the mechanic, and you know, the whole team, because nothing works in isolation. And hopefully next weekend he'll get a better result than that in Leogang. The other thing to bear in mind when we've got back-to-back races is, you know, as soon as he's finished racing at Fort William on Sunday morning, you know, all you kind of want to do is just chill out, watch the racing and all that sort of thing. But I was straight on him. I was like, right on the turbo, and he was doing a proper cool down. Because if you're racing the following weekend, then recovery and preparation for that next race starts as soon as you finish the race on this weekend. So he did his cool down, we got him hydrated, we made sure we got food, and then warm and dry. And then once we'd done all of that, once we had the discipline, once we'd done all that, that's when he could then go and enjoy, you know, the buzz of that event and seeing the elites come down the hill in the afternoon for the main World Cup event. So I really hope you've enjoyed my, you know, short video about the World Cup and what goes into, you know, putting down a good run and performing at the highest level in the world. If you've got any questions, drop them down below and I'll do my best to, you know, keep you up to date with interesting things that I'm up to, and let me know what you want to hear about. Cheers.